all are enjoying the weekend. My husband and I, he's on the other side of the camera right
Hello.
now. For those of you who don't know, his name is Roop Raj, and he's an anchor and reporter here in Metro Detroit at the Fox station. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a counselor and a speaker. And yesterday we got to participate in a men's health event down at Ford Field, and we were both so inspired, and I think the whole panel was, and I think, of course, hopefully, the people in attendance. But we were so inspired, we can't stop talking about it. And we're actually planning the next conversation for the community, which you'll hear more about later. But again, I'm so pumped up because it was just such a great conversation, and my husband and I decided to continue that with all of you today.
So a little bit about what we talked about yesterday. I had the chance to moderate it, and by the way, the reason I'm not on camera is because, first of all, I do too much of that, and I don't need any more FaceTime, right?
Right.
But it's also because I'm running this camera. But I wanted to kind of interject here and there because we're just moving this conversation along. We both thought it was so important. The takeaways from yesterday, we wish there was 4,000 people who attended this event. The takeaways were incredible. We talked about anxiety and nutrition. And it's interesting because I brought this up yesterday. You always talk about spiritual nutrition.
Yeah.
Just tell people what you mean by that and how people can best consume and let go of that nutrition.
Yeah. I mean, this one is really important every day. But basically, my definition of nutrition, we all think of food and fluids when we think about nutrition. It's what we eat. It's what we take in through our mouths. But nutrition for me is really the total of everything we take in through all of our senses. So that's what we see on a daily basis. It's the moods of other people. It's the day-to-day stress. It's traffic. It's time with family and friends. It's our spirituality. It's time outside with our pets or our children. It's time relaxing. All of that is our nutrition. And when we don't have a balanced nutrition, if you will, some of the stuff that's harder to take in builds up, and that impacts us wholly, mind, body, spirit. And what I talked about yesterday was that definition, and the reason I really wanted to talk about it today is this was a horrific week in the news. For here in Metro Detroit, as well as our country, it was a terrible news week. And we take that stuff in. I mean, these are real stories, real people that we can all connect with in one way or another, and it was painful. And I want everybody to remember that that is part of our nutrition, and we have to account that. It's kind of like if you went out and ate fried chicken or something, maybe the next day you eat something a little bit more healthy. But we really, really have to consider all of our nutrition. And it was a really bad week. So I want to encourage everybody. It's Sunday. Hopefully it's a more relaxed day for most of us. To take some time today to give that some attention.
So when you say give that some attention, you wake up, most people are waking up on the other side of the camera. Maybe they've had breakfast already, they're having a cup of coffee. And Sunday is routine. They get into the same routine. You're saying, look, you got to take some time and set that aside to do what?
Yeah, well, when I think about the news this week, first, cry. You know, a lot of us hear these stories. I could get choked up talking about it. And we hold it in because we're somewhere or somebody might not understand or we're not comfortable with where we are. But we need to let that stuff out. And for me, when each of us does that, right, because I don't know a lot of people who don't feel this, when each of us does that, we help the world, if you will, move some of this pain through. Tears are cleansing. And so, number one, when it comes to events like we saw this week, cry. Even if you're just overwhelmed, cry. There's nothing wrong with crying. It's actually a very cleansing ritual of sorts. So that's the first thing I think of when I think of news like what we saw this week. Cry. Cry and cry some more and let it move through you so that we can let it move through the world. That's one thing. Another thing is spend some time just sitting quiet. Like, pause this video, or when this video is over, make it a point to just sit and spend 5 minutes just breathing. Your mind is going to wander and tell you all the things you need to be doing right now, and let it do that. but yet stay there and breathe. One of my favorite things I try to do every day, and I don't always get to do it every day, but is I love the ritual of tea. I love to have a warm cup of something in my hands. Anyone who's ever been in my office knows that I have tea all day long. The warm cup is very comforting to me. But even before my workday starts, every day when weather permits, I like to go sit outside with my cup of tea, not my phone, just my cup of tea. And I like to look at the trees and hear the birds and watch the animals, or just close my eyes. Another thing is to write. Write about what you felt, about what you saw this week, about what you heard this week, about how you're feeling about that. Because we accumulate this stuff, but we never have the outlet. And the outlet is really, really important for our health, physically, emotionally, the rest of it. That's just a few ideas off the top of my head.
There's some people watching this right now, probably with their cup of tea or coffee, going, you know what? I just don't have the time with the kids to get to the bus stop and me having to get to work and the shower in between and all. It's too hectic. I don't have the time to pause. You're saying it's critical mass that we do this.
I'm saying we don't have the time not to pause, right? And it wouldn't be the first time I've heard I don't have time. And that just speaks to our maybe sense of overwhelm that we're feeling on a day-to-day basis that we're not giving attention to, that really, really needs attention. But my thing is, we all go to the bathroom every day. So even if you don't have 5 minutes to set aside, for me it's in the morning, for some people it might be in the evening, so some people it might be at their lunch hour. I know people that go sit in their cars on their lunch hour just to have some space for themselves, and they just sit for 5 minutes. But back to my bathroom scenario. We all go to the bathroom every day. And if you can take 1 extra minute to stay in the stall, even if it's a stall, to just breathe, before you rush out onto the next thing, when you go to grab that door handle, wait. And this is a practice of awareness. It's like anything that we want to get good at. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of our own motivation and coaching. But take that minute to just breathe. Even while you're washing your hands and drying your hands, you can close your eyes and breathe. This is about finding space, because clearly our world needs this.
Well,
and if we don't have enough evidence for the last week, I don't know, I'm a little bit afraid of what the other evidence is.
yeah, and we're coming upon another week of intense political debate and talk where so many of the terrible events that you speak of, including topics that will obviously have to do with gun violence and terrorism and all these other things, that's going to be discussed by 2 politicians who we're going to give the stage to and say, it's for you to talk about. And you're saying that conversation needs to happen with yourself before you go watch that debate.
That is precisely why I wanted to do this topic today. Because starting tomorrow, we're all going to be back into the throes of politics, right? And it's important for us to take a break from that. As important as the office of president is, and it is an important office, I think we have to remember that it's not one singular person who changes this country. It's all of us. And I think sometimes we forget that, yes, the president is important, but my day-to-day environment, health, radiates out into the world. My energy radiates out into everybody I touch, everybody I speak to, pass, drive next to, all of us. So it's not just, we get caught up in the importance of the politics, and again, I'm not saying it's not, but we have to go beyond that and understand that all of us have a role, and all of us can make huge impact. You know, ultimately, the president works for us. The change happens from the top down, and in this situation, we are the top. They work for us. So it's really important to get some perspective around all of this. And I'm not saying don't get involved in politics. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's very important. But just, I'm adding a little bit of perspective and showing, hopefully, each of us the power that we do have. It doesn't all just live in the White House.
And the last thing that we're going to talk about today for today's video, which, by the way, we hope to do many more of these coming up throughout the weeks and months.
Yeah.
But, you know, yesterday at Ford Field, it was magical to see the number of people who sat in that audience and listened to you, 2 other great experts, and Eric Hipple, who, by the way, is an ex-Lions quarterback who lost his son to suicide. And really, the four of you sat there on stage and you talked about how important it is to get the stigma of mental health help erased and eradicated. This is the most serious issue it seems that so many people deal with. It affects our physical health, but we're afraid to say that something could be wrong with us in our emotional state. That's a problem.
That's a problem. And the way that, first of all, I want to say the stigma, we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. But wow, I'm really excited about where we're going with that. Roop even shared part of his own story. We got to share part of our own stories individually and as a couple in dealing with our own emotional, mental health, because it is part of our physical health. These things are not separate. But yes, the things that I'm talking about today, taking that 5 minutes to sit outside and breathe, or to sit inside and breathe, or to look at nature, or have that cup of tea, to go call up a friend and say, let's go grab a coffee, just to go around the block for a walk. That's the start of it. That is taking care of our mental health. It's a beginning. It's starting to create space and not just running to the next thing, but creating space for my emotional experience. Because emotional experience is not separate than my physical experience. As much as we put energy into what we eat and exercise and all that stuff, and again, important part of our nutrition, but it's not the only part. And if we keep ignoring this one huge part, I'm not sure how balanced that is. Actually, I am. It's not balanced at all. So please, I really wanted to do this today because it's so important. And I know we're talking about a serious topic, but part of our nutrition is having fun. Go laugh with your friends. Go, sit with your body and ask it what it wants to do today.
Well, go to breakfast with your husband. That's something that you can do today.
That's what we're going to do.
We're going to go out.
Now.
Beautiful day outside.
Right.
We're going to go do that. But I want to thank, go ahead.
Open all the windows. It's a gorgeous, which is a whole nother post on open a window. But we opened all the windows in the house today. It's a gorgeous day here in Metro Detroit. The air is dry and cool. Air it out. Get it out. Let it move. You don't even have to know what it is. Just open the windows and let some movement take place. We need to move some things through our communities and our culture.
It starts at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even if all you do is open the windows with the intention of, I'm going to just let some stuff move around, that's great.
Get it out. Well, Julie Butch, of course, this is your page. Everyone knows who you are. I'll be helping out here and there when we do these videos in the future just to have that conversation. But it was good that everyone joined us today. Thank you for joining us. And Julie, you'll be back with another video very soon.
Yes.
In the next few days.
But please today, take that few minutes for you because you are so, so deserving and worth it. Have fun.